as we continue making our animals, we've already made the head and the body part. All right, and so we can set that aside for just a minute, and now it's time for us to work on the arms and legs. So you're going to take a little bit of clay, all right, and these are small enough that we can make them solid. So I'm just going to start with a nice thick coil of clay. I'm going to roll it so that it's nice and smooth, and I've got a good piece of clay to start with. All right, so, and there we go, there's the end, it's a little messy there. Okay. So now I have a nice piece of clay to start with for my arm. And what you want to know, what you want to think about your arms. All right. They usually start thick and then get a little thinner around the elbow. And then if you look at your elbow, it's thick and then gets thinner around the wrist. So you can see I'm starting to pinch out my clay just like that into 3 sections. I've got 2 equal and then 1 little one for the hand. Now, the key to making a sculpture look realistic, especially when you're doing a figure like a human, but in this case an animal, the key is to make sure the joints look realistic. All right, that's how you get limbs to look believable. So I'm gonna, my little bear is giving himself a big old bear hug just like this, see how his elbows bend? All right, so I need to bend my bear's elbow. So I'm gonna just bend my clay just like this. Right, and then if you notice, if you look at your elbow, see how it's kind of pointy? All right, we're going to make this elbow kind of pointy too. So I'm just smoothing the end of it, just like that, making a nice little point there. Good. And now I'm going to go back and make sure that my thick to thin looks good there. My thick to thin looks pretty good there. And then I'm just going to flatten out his little paw, just like that. All right, so I've got thick to thin, and his little paw. All right, and I've already gone ahead and made another one. All right, so I'm going to just double check and make sure that they're about the same size. And you can see I made one a little big, which is okay. This is why you want to make them both at the same time before you attach them, so you can make sure you're working with similar amounts of clay for both. Otherwise, you're going to have a bear with one big hand and one little hand, and that just looks weird. All right, so now that I've got my arms about a similar size and shape. All right, I'm not going to worry too much about adding a whole lot of detail right now. The important part for me right now is to get them on my little bear. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and figure out the placement of them. All right, so he's probably going to be hugging, if you can kind of see like that. All right, but if you just stick things on like this, that's not realistic at all, right? It looks like some sort of weird action figure kind of thing. So what you want to do is you're going to score really well where you're adding it. Score really well here. And again, I don't want too much water, so I'm just going to add a little squirt there. And I'm going to squish it on. But it's not enough just to squish it on just like that. I'm going to actually go ahead and start smoothing it in. All right, think about your shoulder. It's got muscles and everything that connect it to the body. So I'm going to add some clay here to make sure I have a nice, smooth, good-looking connection. Because remember, joints are the key to realistic figure sculpture or animal sculpture. All right, so now you can see how I've started to smooth his arm in. And it's starting to look a little more realistic. Gosh, this is a really pudgy bear, isn't it? All right. So I'm just going to kind of get the general position that I want. And I'm going to figure out right about, let's see, yeah, that looks pretty good for his other hand. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to score it really well. Score really well. A little bit of clay, or a little bit of water, excuse me, and then press it in. Now, the wonderful part is that because I still have my balloon intact, my clay balloon that I used to make the body, I can press in and it holds itself pretty well. But you need to remember this is still fragile, so you're pressing firmly, but not too hard. All right? And there we go. So now I'm blending in, making these shoulders look believable. All right, adding some clay to that joint to smooth that transition. And there we go. Now we have some realistic looking bear arms. All right, maybe I should have given my guy more of a neck. Huh? Well, this will just be Pudgy Bear. And so then feet work the exact same way. All right, you can see how I've gone ahead and made my foot. I've just, instead of pinching out a hand, I've just bent it upward to make a foot. All right, and feet go on the exact same way.